Welcome to the She Build Show. I'm your host, Stefanie Olson, a licensed general contractor who builds new construction, renovates, and designs your vision. Today, more than ever, we need raw, authentic women who are willing to rise above society's norms, break those glass ceilings, and encourage each other to boldly build the life we were meant to live. So, honey, what are you building? Today on the She Build Show, we have the incredible general contractor, designer, and real estate developer, Gabby from Guild Properties. Welcome to the show, Gabby.
Hi, Stefanie. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to finally meet you in
air quote, real life.
Real life instead of just binging on your Instagram stuff.
Binging? That's so funny. Well, I was binging on your stuff because I was like, I got to get to know her and like all the things she does. And it's like, your stuff is absolutely beautiful. So tell me, how was Guild Properties born? Like, where did this come from?
Okay, well, it's not a straight story. Like, I didn't get here from A to B, right? Like how sometimes we think we're going to get to things, right, in a straight line, but it looks the opposite of that.
Yeah.
So this is my second career, right? Like I went to school I went to business school and then I worked in finance for a long time in higher education. And finally, my passion has been design and construction from, I don't know, since early on. I can remember, I come from construction. So I grew up in the field of, like, my father used to own a very large construction company in Nicaragua. I'm Nicaraguan, by the way. I became a naturalized American in 2015. I went to the swearing in ceremony and everything.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was really funny. It was a lot of fun. But I grew up in Nicaragua. My father used to own a construction company, and construction was always around, like it's always been sort of like a part of my life. And I went to business school and I thought I wanted to, I don't even know, I was like, this is what people do. Like, I love numbers though. Like give me a good spreadsheet.
Oh yeah. I'm right there with you.
I can spend all day,
making it look pretty and like cells and colors. I'm like, so weird.
Yes.
I'm like,
and I love
you didn't
budgeting.
quite. I know, me too, right? I think that's like such an important part of construction. Like if you don't know how to budget and actually make
makes
money.
It or breaks it, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like bottom line, we have to pay attention. So I've always been good at budgeting. Like I really love budgeting. I've always loved accounting and stuff like that. So I went to business school, but throughout business, this whole time, it's like whenever I'm not doing that stuff or I wasn't doing that stuff, I was always reading Architectural Digest, going to Home Depot for fun. Like who does that, right?
I mean, I do. I'm like, let's go to Lowe's.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like you and I, we understand, like we go and we can spend hours and like come up with ideas and like look at things that are like new products and stuff like that. And it's like, and that's always been sort of like a part of what was happening. In 2008, we already had a daughter. She was, how old was Isabella? 8 plus 2. She was 10, and we had a baby on the way, and we were still living in an apartment, and we decided to buy our first house. So the economy was crashing. It was 2008, and no one was buying houses except us, right? So, but it turned out well because we were able to negotiate well for this first home that we bought. But it was a house that needed a lot of work, Stefanie, right? Like it needed a ton of work, and we were a young family and we basically had no money, right? So we would get into this house. I wanted to do everything. The kitchen and the bathrooms and the floors, and you know how it goes.
Yeah.
So I was like, I called my dad. My dad is an engineer and he used to own this construction company. By this point, he had already sold it and is retired. And my brother is an architect that used to work with my father. So I called them both and I'm like, how do I do this? I have no money and I need to renovate this house. And they were like, well, you can act as your own general contractor. We'll walk you through how you can do it. You can totally do it, and then you will save a ton of money. And then you're doing it slowly, like start with one project and so I did, so that is sort of like how it began, right?
Mm-hmm,
So
right.
we started with the kitchen. I was able to do it. It turned out beautifully. I loved it. I loved the whole process. I even loved when it was like demo and like the space was a mess and no one in my house liked it except
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah,
You know,
because
my
you can see. Yeah, because you can see what it's gonna look like.
right. Oh yeah, I could totally see what it's gonna look like. And I didn't mind living in a construction zone, even though we were having babies at the time.
Right.
Because not only one baby, babies came back to back, so that's how it started. So then
Mm-hmm.
we renovated our first house that way. We sold that one, made a lot of money, and then bought our second house and so forth. And then we did it again. But then it got to the point like I had no more houses to rent.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, what do I do? So we started investing in real estate in Arlington. And so we would buy these properties that needed a lot of work, renovated them, and sold them. Like we started flipping houses.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually it grew into friends of mine would approach me and be like, hey, I need to remodel a bathroom or a kitchen or whatever. Can you help me? And I was like, I got you, because I had the crews, like I had been doing it. I was like, totally, let's do it. And all of a sudden, Stefanie, I was like, this is like, it could turn into a thing, right?
Right.
And that's how Guild Properties was born. And
Wow.
I wanted, like Guild in my head. I envisioned, like the old school guilds, right? Where all the carpenters would like unionize and form
gather.
guilds, and like the metal workers would like gather. And so in my head, I wanted to sort of be this space where people who are really good at their craft would be able to, sort of like gather and collaborate, and sort of like that's how Guild Properties was born.
Right.
But then the pandemic hit, right? The pandemic hit. I still had a 9 to 5 job. And so everybody was working from home. I wasn't renovating or flipping any homes. And I was like, okay, like what's going to happen now, right? So I was like, okay, well, everybody was like, there's no judgment here. Well, everybody was drinking and baking bread.
Yeah. And buying Pampered Chef. Yes.
I'm buying Pampered Chef. I decided.
I have to admit, I did that.
I mean, everybody did. I decided that I was going to study for my licenses, right? So I was like, okay, let's do this. Let's get this formalized. And I went through the licensing process during the middle of the pandemic in that summer of 2020. By November of 2020, I finally got my residential and commercial licenses. In December, I got my first like real quote unquote, I'm doing air quotes for people who can't see me, client, right? Under the new
license.
License Build Properties.
How hard was it for you to pass that test?
It was hard.
Yeah, I know. Mine was too.
I'm gonna be honest. It was one of the most challenging things I've ever done in my entire life.
Yeah, I agree. Yes, it's not easy. And it's not easy being a mom and having kids. And like I would study, I would be like, okay, you're going to do, I think I did it for 6 months straight. Every night I would, from like 7 to 7:30, I was like, you have to do 50 questions a day. Like that was like, I couldn't go to bed unless I did my 50 questions, and I would just like study. So it's not easy.
It's not easy. And I'm going to tell you, Stefanie, the commercial portion of it, I had to retake 3 times.
Yeah.
And every single time, it's like, I mean, you know how they are. They're long and like...
Yeah, it's a grueling day. It wipes you out for sure.
It wipes you out, and they're long and dense. And I failed it 3 times. And then every single time I would walk out of there in tears, being like, that's it.
I'm never doing it again.
Yeah, that's it. I quit. And like, just so frustrated. But I kept going. I kept doing it. I was like, you know what? I have nothing to lose except the exam fee, right? Because they charge you every single time.
Yeah.
I was like, I am going, even if it takes me 1,000 times, I am going to keep doing it until I pass. I'm going to keep going until I get to the goal where I want to go.
Where did that fire come from? Like, just curious, because there's a lot of people that fail an exam 3 times. They're done. Like, sometimes failing an exam 1 time, they don't like, what do you have? Like, is it your support system? Is it just like who you are to not fail?
I think it's a combination of like a lot of things, Stephanie. Like something that is a big part of my story is like I became a teenage mom at the age of 18. So I had a baby as a freshman in college, and sort of like I was very young. I was a baby with a baby, and I was introduced. I had to grow up really quickly, right? And it's sort of like a lot of people back in Nicaragua, where I'm from, viewed it as like this terrible, tragic thing that would happen to me, right?
Right.
It was viewed like in terms of my society where I come from, I was pretty much like walking around with a scarlet letter on my chest.
Right. Like an outcast. Yeah.
Right. An unwed teenage mom at the age of 18. But, in a way, it was hard, but I didn't view it that way. Right. Like I was just like in my head, failure, even back then, was never like sort of like an option.
Right. And it didn't just like cloak you. You were like, okay, and I also think that like when people look at you from the outside, that like they don't know the connection that like a mother has with a daughter, even at that young age. It's like this beautiful child is a gift, like whether you think that or not. And I love her. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And the gift and my relationship with my then boyfriend, who is now my husband, and we've had many other children together, we went a different route than the normal routes that people take. We didn't get married right away. We got married later. We are still together. We have built businesses together. It's sort of like our path has been different, but sort of like going back to your question about that fire is sort of, and it's interesting that you asked this. And I thought this was going to come up for some reason because it's been coming up a lot in sort of like my conversations with people, this notion of like failing, right? Like, I'm not that scared of failing. I think it's such a necessary part of life and of being a business owner and of just being like, of just getting better at our craft, right? Like I call it failing well, right? Like in order to get to where I want to be, I'm going to have to fail many, 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 many times. And the better I get at failing and learning the lesson that is, bringing me, the better that process of getting to my goal is going to be. And sometimes what's ended up happening is that, I set a goal and I try and try and try and try. I fail. And then I'm like, I have to change the solution a little bit, right? And instead of what I thought was going to be, from here to here, I have to take a detour to get to the final goal, right? And sometimes the goal has been modified and it's actually better. It turns out to be than initially expected. So I don't know. I think I've always sort of been this way. I've had many, many coaches in life and sort of mentors who have drilled down this notion of learning how to make mistakes, continuously, not being scared of rejection, not being scared of negative emotions coming up and just being okay with negative emotion. So it's like,
I think for me, how I describe it to my daughter, because she's can be really hard on herself and, has a very high expectation of her performance and whatever it is. And I think how I describe it to her is like setting up camp in that defeat or in that failure, like pitching your tent and staying there too long. It's like, that's when we get in trouble, is when we're like, I failed. I've done something wrong and I'm going to stay in that feeling of failure. I'm going to pitch my tent. I'm going to live here. I'm going to camp here for a little while. And I'm always like, baby, let's burn that tent, put that down. Like, we understand what's happened. Let's move on. Let's find a solution. Let's change our attitude. Let's think about it differently. Let's have a different mindset. We're not going to set up shop here, babe, because I think that's what, when people fail, that they just stay stuck in that failure instead of being like, exactly like you said, like, okay, well, what's the solution? Maybe it's different than the previous goal. Maybe it's different than what we thought. Maybe success is just getting up and and taking a couple steps forward and re-signing up for the test and not knowing how you're going to get there, but I'm still going to do it. I think that feels like what you're describing.
Yes, absolutely. And I love that what you tell your daughter. It's like, it's like stuff that I teach my children all the time, like not being scared of doing something because they're scared to fail.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I see that a lot happening, right? I've done that before in my life where I don't do something because I am scared of the outcome, right?
Yeah.
I am scared of a negative outcome. And essentially what it boils down for me, Stefanie, is that it's not that I'm scared of how I'm going to feel, right? Like I am scared of all those big feelings like rejection and shame and feeling less than and all of those things, right?
Yeah, or not like stepping up and achieving the thing that you set out to do or whatever and ending up not getting there. My daughter, just like side note, this last weekend, my daughter had a horse show and like I made her go because her friends were going and I wanted her to support her friends. It's not really the style of riding she does, but I made her go. I was like, babe, let's just go. Like we need to go. It's like pleasure riding and she does like rodeo stuff, right? So it's totally not her thing. And she goes in and she gets like 4th place and then 5th place and then she doesn't place and then she gets 6th place. So it's like this downward spiral. And by the end, like by like class 4, she's in the car crying, and I'm like, we're not quitting. Like we're not. And I knew that the ranch riding was coming up, which is like what she's good at. And I was like, we're not quitting like this. We didn't come here to quit. I know that it's hard, but we're not quitting. So she like takes a deep breath and she's like, okay, when's my next class? And we like get her on and she goes in and she wins the class, like the last class of the day. And I just like bawling because it was like precisely the lesson I needed her to learn, that it's like, but it all within like 3 hours,
Right.
like it's really, really hard sometimes and we fail and we go down and but if we don't give up, look what happens. Like you succeed. It was just like such a beautiful example in a short period of time, which is like great for children, right? That if you don't give up, you can succeed. And like the smile on her face and all of that. And she's like, wow, mom, I just like plummeted down the mountain. And then I came back up. I'm like, right. Like, I'm so proud of you for
what an amazing thing that you're teaching your daughter. Like, I love it. I'm like,
well, and even if she had spent the whole day and failed and didn't get it, I was like, I actually have to teach her those things because she's so hard on herself. She's the type of person that will not try stuff. She will not do it if she doesn't know she's going to win, And it's like, no, like we got to try it anyways and go for it. So it's just kind of the same thing, but like in bigger life stuff, right? It's like, oh, I'm going to try it. And I just hope someday that translates for her. Like, okay, I've failed before and I came back and I'm okay.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, I call it failing well. Like we just get better at it. And I anticipate the feelings that are going to come with a fail. Like I already know what's coming and I'm okay with it because I have felt them before and I know they're not going to kill me and they're going to come again and they're going to pass as well. So it's like, I am well aware of all those things.
Of the process. Yeah. Yeah. I love that. It's a beautiful term, failing well. Maybe we'll just title the podcast that, How to Fail Well. Okay. So let's get into construction a little bit. So I was digging through all your stuff. So it looks like you primarily or mostly focus your attention on bathrooms. So tell me about why bathrooms.
Bathrooms are the core of my business. I do a lot of bathrooms. Bathrooms are easy in a way. We have them down to like a science. We're in and out unless it's a ginormous bathroom. But we're in and out in a month to a month and a half, at the most. So they are quick turnaround projects and they're just, in a way, they're easy for me and my crew,
Yeah.
And I love them. Why bathrooms? Like kitchens, they are an excellent return on the investment for a house. If you have a dated bathroom and you invest X amount in renovating that bathroom, it's going to be, and you have to sell that house, it's going to be a one-on-one return pretty much, right? Mm-hmm. So they're just excellent investment opportunities to bring up the value of your home, so that is my sweet spot. Bathrooms are just my sweet spot. I like everything. I like tile, I like hardware stuff, like showers. There's so many reasons why I like them, but
yeah, I know. I was actually just like bidding a project yesterday for a bathroom. And I'm like, oh my God, like, I don't know. Cause my mind, like when I bid, I kind of like have to think about the design and like what I want to do and all of that. So I just like get in like kind of creative, like numbery mode. I don't know. It's weird. It's like, well, can I afford that? And this price, and this is what I want to do. But it is fun. It's fun to make a bathroom a space that you want to be in and relax in. And I think, what did your website say? It was like, we spend 2 years of our life in our bathroom or something.
Yeah. We spend actually, it's like, I can't remember the exact number of hours, but like, those research studies where like we spend 14 years of our life asleep, or I don't know.
Yeah, sleeping. Yeah.
Sleeping. It's like we spend
2 years of our life on the crapper. No.
We do. And some people more, because like some people I don't know, I'm not one of those people, but there are people who take really long getting ready in the morning.
Yeah, I know. I'm not that person. You can see my hair sweat.
I'm not that person. It's like, look, I mean, no makeup and like, but it's like a lot of people spend a lot of time. So it's gonna be spending a lot. And usually, Stefanie, you and I know as women, like that is the one place where we can go, close the door, and be okay.
I know. I'm like, I was just before this in the bath, like just relaxing, reading my book, and like we have a barn door on our bathroom. Was probably the biggest mistake of my life. And because my dog goes like this, whoop, and like opens my barn door, and I'm like about ready to yell at one of the children, like, don't come in. And it's the dog. I'm like, oh, you little stinker.
I know, they're such little stinkers. And it's like, even the dogs, and remember when the kids were little, when we had toddlers, I was like, there were times where every human in the house
is in the bathroom. Yeah. My children like have their own bathroom and they shower in my bathroom every single time. I'm like, is there something wrong with your bathroom?
No, it's just that our spaces are more comfortable to them for some reason, right?
Yeah, I know. It's totally fine with me.
Yeah.
I know. That's so funny. Well, I love bathrooms. Okay. So also you do virtual design. So like virtual design, project management, how did this come about and like, how is it going and why did you do it?
So it's going okay. What has ended up happening is that I've had several virtual design consultations for bathrooms, and basically because how I was talking about, I've done a lot of bathrooms. I understand bathrooms very well. I know exactly what you're probably going to need. It comes down like, send me a picture of your bathroom, send me general measurements, and I can provide a virtual design for your bathroom. I can tell you exactly how much tile you need, what shower system to buy, et cetera, et cetera. It's doable when things are not moving places, right? It's very doable.
Right. Just a cosmetic situation.
Just a cosmetic, like maybe let's gut it, change the cosmetic stuff, right? Not moving the plumbing around. That gets a little bit trickier. And it's going okay. It hasn't picked up as much as I thought it would be. And, it's all this like testing of things that we do as business owners, right?
Right.
But I've had several clients who have loved it, right? And it's like, I have consulted with people in Seattle and I've had a few in California, right? And I think the latest one, where was she? Actually, this is interesting. She was in Washington. I live in Arlington, Virginia, which is just across the river from Washington, D.C. Like she hired me for this and I could have definitely done this in person, right? But she just wanted the design. And then she was going to GC it herself, which I loved. I loved it.
You're like, yes, go for it.
Yeah. And then I also talked to her about how to go about finding the subs and sort of like, the order of things of how they should go. And I was like, you got this, you can do it. Right. So that happened. And I loved it.
Yeah.
And she was like, she felt so confident. And I think that was like 2 weeks ago. So I don't think she started, but she had everything that she needed.
Yeah, she needed to be able to do it herself. Yeah, absolutely. Right. I think like just empowering other people to feel like, okay, yeah, I can do this. And that's the thing. It's like, I don't know if you've heard of Matriarchy Build. Have you heard of
Yes.
them? Are you on there?
their platform. You are
Yeah.
too, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think you
Yes.
are. And I just love that they're just like trying to put us, people like us with the experience, in the hands of anybody that wants to be able to go, okay, I may not feel comfortable doing this, but there's
Right.
a woman that I feel, connected and easy talking to, and they have the experience and knowledge, and they're willing to share that with me for a pretty nominal fee, just to buy us for a little, hour time or a couple hours and help them with their project. Like, I think it's such a beautiful and smart way to empower other women to just try things. So that's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really-
So tell me, like, who is on your team? I'm just interested, like, how much do you do in-house? How much do you sub out? Who's on your team?
It depends on the size of the project, right? If it's a sizable project that's going to require all sorts of permits, I have to sub out an architect, right? Or a structural engineer for those drawings and specs and stuff like that. Because I'm not an architect and I'm not an engineer, and sometimes we need those things, like as you know. It's in-house, it's myself and my assistant Elena, who is a young architect. She's about to graduate from architectural school in December. So right now, all of the in-house design is done by us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like layouts and elevations and stuff like that. Things that don't require structural loads and stuff like that, we can do it in-house.
Right. Yeah. Just to have your proposed and your, as built and be able to submit. Yeah.
Correct. And then my crew consists, I have two working crews. My main crew is 3 Guatemalans who I love dearly, head by my foreman, David. And they are the sweetest men, that I have ever encountered. They are so detail oriented and just so sweet. They have never had a problem working with a woman, in the construction field, which I have had in the past, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there are people I don't work with anymore. We couldn't work together, and that's okay, So David, who I've been working with for many, many years, back when I was like, doing all my house flips and stuff like that. So they are my main crew. I have another crew from when we have several projects going on at the same time. That's another thing. I don't take on too many projects at the same time. I cap myself out at 2, maybe 3 when the second is sort of like finishing,
almost done. Yeah.
Overlaps, but I don't take more than 2 at the same time. It's not worth it to me. I like to be on site every single day, and I like to talk to the client a lot. And I feel like I can't pay that much attention when there's just too many projects.
Right.
My second crew is a Nicaraguan, like myself. His name is Marlon, and he works with 4 guys who are just excellent at what they do. We have our tiler and our drywaller and our carpenter and stuff like that. And that's pretty much my team.
That's amazing. I love it so much. What's kind of been maybe the best compliment you've ever gotten?
Oh, interesting. The best compliment I've ever gotten. Wow. It's really interesting because a lot of my clients end up being my friends.
Right. I know. I'm like gathering friends all the time.
Right? Like all the time. We did a whole house remodel in the fall of last year. And my client said something to me. She's like, you gave me permission to really own my project, and it's changed the way our family lives. That was, to me, I read that and I teared up.
Yeah, immediately. Absolutely. I actually had somebody say that to me too. She goes, we spend more time together now because we can gather at the island. And so you don't realize that you're affecting the way people live. Like, you're making beautiful design and you're making the functional layout and, cohesiveness. But then when the family moves in and it's like, oh, we spend more time with our daughter because we can gather around the island and I can chat about our day, where before it was so cramped, there was nowhere for us to be all together. And you're just like, oh, I didn't know I was doing that.
I know. Isn't it a beautiful thing? And also with this one client that I'm talking about, she really was involved in a lot of like the design process for the renovation. And, she was scared to make the incorrect choice, quote unquote, right? Of like whatever tile, countertop. But I was like, you need to go with your gut. It doesn't matter what your mom or your next door neighbor their opinion is about what's going to go in your house. Like this is your house, your remodel. It needs to make your eyes happy.
Right.
Your eyes are the most important eyes. No one else matters.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And she took that and she ran with it. And she was having so much fun and she was making all of these like bold decisions and they ended up and she wallpapered like, let me just give you an example. It's not generally my aesthetic.
Right.
But I was also having so much fun because it was so different for me, Stefanie.
Yeah.
She had this powder room and she really wanted a wallpaper of like old school cassette tapes, black and white.
Oh, cool.
I was like, oh my God. Right. And we were going with this sort of like modernish aesthetic. And we did it. We installed the old school black and white cassette tapes and this like beautiful brass mirror and like a hunter green, really modern floating vanity.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's gorgeous.
So gorgeous. And everybody told her that
don't do it. Yeah.
Don't do it. It was horrible. And I was like, don't listen to them. Do it, do it, do it.
Yeah.
And she did. And she loves it.
I feel like I constantly, like, I don't know if you run into that, but I mean, I can push the envelope a little bit. And I get even from my own team sometimes that are like, very conservative, and like really good at project management, but not great at design. And I get a lot of like, oh, you're painting it that color, or you're putting that wallpaper up, or you're doing, and I'm just like, I've been doing this for so long. Like, I know what it's going to look like. I may not be able to like make a 3D rendering of what is in my head, but like, I can't tell you how many times my husband's like, I just need to shut up, don't I? Because you know what you're doing. And I'm like, yeah, like just be quiet and trust me. Like I promise you it'll look good. I mean, I've made enough mistakes in the past to know that it's going to be okay. And I love it when people are like willing to just try and trust and like, push the design envelope a little bit and not just be like, yeah, let's just paint it all white or whatever.
I know. Which is, I understand. It's like, I always try to push my clients as well a little bit. And sometimes there's like, whoa. There's like, no.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
The same. Stefanie, what you just described, this is my same situation. I scare the crap out of my husband continuously. He's like, you're doing what? It's like, you're thinking of doing what? I'm like, just trust
me, please.
Trust me. I'm like, and sometimes I don't even know what, but I'm like, what's the worst thing that can happen? I need to repaint it. It's not a big deal.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, but I know. And it's fun. It's like, and I think why we have to do that is because we do so much of it that it's like, you just get tired of staring at the same thing. Like I was with my tile guy the other day and we're working on, it's just a small little bathroom remodel. And like, there were these really bright greenish aqua tiles and they were just, the clients just wanted this brick pattern. And I was like, can we do something fun? Like for the regular tiles, can we do something fun in the niches with the like pattern of the tile? He's like, do you want to do herringbone? I'm like, no. And they were these like really long, skinny, like maybe like 10 inches by like 2 inches. And it kind of had like a curved edge. So we took them and we like stacked them in a picture frame, like on the outside. And then we just like soldier jointed them like in the middle. Oh. And then he was like, oh my God, thank you so much, Steph, for like not making me do the same exact thing all the time. I was like, yes. Because actually, like the way the tiles were, they like fit perfectly in this little picture frame. And he's like, do you want me to brick pattern it in the middle? I was like, no, like let's like break up. Yeah. So it's like just a little.
Just continue the tile.
Yeah, I just continued the tile in the niche. Like after we picture framed it, like I call them soldiers. When they're like right there.
I might have to steal that idea.
I know. I was like, oh, I'll send you a picture.
Send me a picture. That sounds amazing. I love that. I
just like fun things that I'm like, okay, I just don't want to stare at the same pattern again. It might be a similar color I've done, but even just like mixing up patterns and stuff is fun. So yes, he's like, oh, like my tile guy was like thanking me for not doing. He's like, I hate doing the same thing over and over. I'm like, me too.
And it's like, we do so much of it. It's like, you were always like,
I know,
like,
I need to like come up with something different. Yeah, totally. So just one last question. What would you say would be like the most important personality trait to be in this business as a woman? Like there's this rare to find general contractors, right? That are women that are actually running construction businesses. If somebody wanted to step into eventually getting there, like what do you think is your most important, in your opinion, trait to be able to like be successful in that?
So my answer is sort of like a two-part answer. The first, Stephanie, is that not until I became a general contractor and I started actually like meeting people in the construction space that I thought I never felt like a woman in a male dominated world, if that
I
makes
know.
sense.
Absolutely. That's how I feel like I'm just part of it because I've been doing it for so long, but
Right.
it doesn't feel that way. Yeah. From the inside, at least. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like I've been doing it for so long and I've been dealing with subs and people in construction for so long that it's just like so very normal, right? And like it's not out of the ordinary for me. And yeah, the reality is that I deal with men mostly all the time. I'm sure you do, right? There are some women here and there, but it's 75% men all the time.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the first thing. It's like, I don't feel like an odd one out. I don't feel like because I'm a woman, no, there's none of that. It's like, this is what I do. This is what we're going to do. Either you like it or not. And this is just what's going to happen. Right. And then communication. I think it's so important to constantly over communicate the process, what's happening, where we're at, what's going on. Right. Like, I feel like you can't over communicate when you're in a construction like project, right? The more you're talking to other people, to your crew and stuff like that, the more you minimize mistakes, the more you minimize like costly mistakes, actually. Because I could be thinking of something, and if like I might think that David, for example, that's my foreman, might know what, but he doesn't know what I'm thinking. And a lot of times I'm like talking out loud and saying it, and he's like, oh, interesting. He's like, that's a good thing that you said that because we were going to do it this way.
Right. I know, I totally agree and I feel like if something goes wrong or there's a mistake that happened, that like generally it's because like I didn't lead well or didn't communicate enough. Like I had it in my brain, and sometimes I go like, they know I don't need to like tell them, because like sometimes I can be micromanaging, right? When I back off a little bit, it's like, no, you just have to I think you have to learn how to communicate effectively, kindly, professionally, without demeaning anybody. But it's a constant communication of the details all the time. And that can feel a little micromanagey to people, if like, I want you to do your job, but it's like, I also need to make sure that like I'm communicating the things that are in my brain because I've done this so many times. I don't want there to be mistakes or whatever. Like I just had something happen on Monday where like, we thought we were good to go. We're starting this barn project. And we communicated with the owner. We put like the owner portal up with the timeline. We talked to her. We let her know we were starting, but it's in the middle of this orchard. And we mobilize all of our equipment to do the demo. And we show up and the orchard has water in it. Like we cannot even pull a piece of equipment in. And we're like, okay, we did not communicate with the ag manager about the water. And it was like, nobody had his phone number. We thought we were covered with all of the communication we did. And it was like, nope. Like, we should have talked to him. And those are just like things you learn where you're like, okay, we should have done a better job.
Right. I love that. And also you mentioned that being in communication with the client, right? It's like they appreciate over communication, I think, especially when it's like when we're in their houses and we're in and out and stuff like that. I'm always letting them know like this day, this is going to happen, and this day that this is going to happen, and expect maybe the water is going to be shut off like from, this day. Like they appreciate those things, right? I've had clients who don't want to be so involved. And then I asked them at the very beginning, I'm like, I usually, I check in a lot, very often with you. Are you good with that? Or how, like I asked them, how do you want me to communicate with you? And I've had clients who are like, no, like, I don't want to be involved.
Yeah. Just get your job done. Yeah.
Yeah. They give me like literally, Stefanie, they give me a check, they give me their keys and they're like, you do what you need to do. I just want it to look pretty. And, I'm pretty
Call
busy.
me when you're done. Yeah.
Call me when you're done kind of thing. And that's totally fine. Right. That's like what they're paying us for. And that's okay. But I do ask them, how do you want our communication to go? Like,
right. Yeah. And I think that's beautiful because there are people that are like, I'm too busy to get your text messages or your emails or whatever. And, and then there's people that are like, if you, look at them the wrong way, they're going to want communication about it. So I think it's beautiful to ask the clients like exactly how they want to be communicated with, because a lot of times the stigma in construction is that there is no communication. So I love that is like the number one thing that you pointed out, that it's just like the one thing that has to happen in construction to make, if you are working with clients and subs, there's just so many moving parts that communication is
many moving parts.
So if you're scared to talk about stuff, don't get in construction.
Exactly. You need to constantly be talking and constantly be managing like expectations and stuff like that, right?
Absolutely. I love it. Okay. So, darling Gabby, tell people where they can find you, follow you, hire you.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. So, we all have a website, right? Like I feel like are people still going to websites? I don't even know, Stefanie.
I don't even know. I do have people that are like, oh, your website's really pretty. I'm like, oh, thank you so much. You went there?
Oh, yeah, exactly. I don't even know, but guildproperties.com, and it's GUILD, the same Instagram handle. And I think Instagram I am kind of treating Instagram as my website, if that makes sense.
So it's where like the updated stuff is.
Yeah, it's the most updated. It's sort of like, it's the most up to date. And it's the same handle at Guild Properties. I am getting into TikTok.
You are? Oh, dang, girl.
It's a different language altogether, but it's the same handle at Guild Properties on TikTok. And you can find me in all those spaces, and you can DM me, and we can consult virtually, or we can do in-person projects.
Okay. And tell the people like your central area of where they can, like, if they want to hire you in person to do a project for them. What's your area?
I am located in Arlington, Virginia, which is in the Washington metropolitan DC region. I've done projects in Washington, DC and Virginia, which is in the same vicinity. I do a lot of I stay locally, I call it locally, in Arlington and sort of Falls Church area, but I'm in that area.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Gabby. It was such a pleasure meeting you and talking with you and getting to know you. Just have like the most beautiful soul. And I could just see your clients falling in love with you and your design. And I just know you do an incredible job and your stuff is beautiful.
Thank you, Stefanie. That means a lot. And thank you so much for having me. I loved getting to know you. I think we have so many similarities.
I know. Every time I meet somebody on my podcast, I'm like, can you be my best friend and just like hang out with me every day? Because I feel or can we work together or something?
Somehow. Well, if you ever want to come to Washington, D.C.
Yes, I will. Well, I'm like really bad at the East Coast states and geography. So don't be mad at me. I'm good at other things. I was just in Connecticut. How far away is that?
That's far. That's pretty far.
It's like people telling me like, oh, you live in California? And they're like, they think I live in Southern California by the beach. And I'm like 8 hours from the beach. I'm like, no, you dumb. That's so far away.
California's huge. Where are you in California?
I'm way in Northern California, like an hour and a half north of Sacramento.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So we're like so far from the beach. Like, so like we live in ag, like we live on a ranch, like we're surrounded by orchards. It's harvest time right now for almonds. Like it's not the beach.
Oh, I know. And I know you have horses and you're like a horse person and your family. Yeah. So
yes.
That
it's very different.
Yeah, it's very different. I mean, California is huge. California is huge.
It is huge. Yeah. But I'm like, all the states you can just like touch in my mind in the East Coast.
If you ever want to come to Washington, D.C., to all the museums, hit me up.
Okay.
I want you to stay in my house.
Oh, I would love that. Thank you so much. I know my daughter's going to be old enough here, and they always do like a Washington, D.C. trip. I did that when I was in, I can't remember what grade, but I know that someday soon, because she's getting old, unfortunately, will be coming out that way. So I will for sure hit you up. And thank you again.
Thank you, Stefanie.
Okay. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining me today on the She Build Show. My name is Stefanie Olson. My hope is that this episode leaves you feeling empowered and ready to boldly take that step into building the life that you envision, 1 2x4 at a time. And if you can do me a quick favor, please leave me a 5-star review on iTunes. I get giddy over reading the reviews each week, and I will choose one special person to win some She Build swag. Make sure you add your name to the review, and I'll reach out if you're the winner. Thanks again for hanging out. Be sure to visit me at theshebuildshow.com, where you can ask me questions and share with me what you're building.